Some people say we are born to fulfill our destiny, but what about those whose destiny was never meant to be written in the first place? What about those whose very existence was a mistake, a blemish someone tried to erase? The story I am about to tell you is about a woman just like that. Her name is Elara Vance. She was no action movie heroine, no brilliant or wealthy heiress. Elara was a 38-year-old piano teacher in a small California town, with deep brown hair, striking blue eyes, and a smile that always felt genuine, as if it was built on a solid foundation of peace. She lived a quiet life, married to a man who loved her deeply, named Samuel. They lived in a small wooden house where every day was filled with music and laughter. But beneath that peaceful surface was a tapestry woven from secrets Elara knew nothing about. Her life had been spun from threads that none of us, not even her, knew were so carefully pulled. It all started with a migraine, not the typical headaches, but a pressure that felt like someone was squeezing her chest, a throbbing pain that blurred her vision and almost made her pass out. Samuel took her to doctors, but they found no physical cause. They suggested stress, overwork, or too much screen time. But Elara knew it wasn't true. Each attack came with a strange sensation, a fragmented memory, but when she tried to grasp it, it would dissolve like smoke. Once, while teaching a student, she suddenly saw herself sitting in a cold, sterile room with bright white walls, and a woman's voice was whispering something she couldn't understand. It was only when her student asked, "Ms. Elara, are you okay?" that she snapped back to reality. The memory fragment was gone. One evening, as Elara was organizing old sheet music in the attic, she stumbled upon a box tucked away in an old trunk. It didn't belong with the other items in the house. The box was made of dark oak, and inside, lined with a tattered silk cloth, was a necklace with an intertwining sun and moon pendant. But the necklace wasn't the most striking thing. It was a small, accompanying note card. It had no sender or recipient address, just a single, scrawled line. "Never give her up. Never." Elara's heart hammered. She had never seen this necklace before, and the handwriting wasn't her mother's. She asked Samuel, who turned pale when he saw the box. "Elara, I've never seen it. It must be some of my mother's old things," he said. But she could sense the hesitation in his voice, a lie she had never heard from him before. The puzzle pieces began to fall into place, but Elara didn't know what picture they were forming. The migraines became more violent, and the memory fragments grew clearer. She saw a young woman, with bright blonde hair and eyes identical to her own, crying. The woman, in a hospital room, was struggling against men in black suits. One of them, a tall man with silver hair and a cold voice, was saying, "She was a mistake. It must be fixed. She was never meant to exist." Elara didn't understand what she was seeing, felt too distant, too strange to be real. But the sense of loss and fear in those fragments was too real. She began to search for information about the necklace. It wasn't a common piece of jewelry. After hours of searching online, she found a forum for rare antique items. A user, with the alias Lumen, had posted about an identical necklace, describing it as the symbol of the outcast. The next line made Elara's blood run cold. It was given to children who were abandoned, children who were never meant to be born. Elara tried to contact Lumen, but the account had been inactive for years. She felt as if she had stepped into a parallel world, where her life was a mere illusion. Samuel, the man she had always trusted, seemed to know something. He started to avoid her questions, becoming more silent and distant. She began to wonder, did Samuel know her secrets? Was he involved in all of this? The truth, whatever it was getting closer, and Elara felt like she was standing on the edge of an abyss whose depth she could not fathom. Doubt became a ghost haunting Elara. She noticed Samuel taking secret phone calls, his voice filled with anxiety and a hint of guilt. One night, as she was reading a book in the living room, she heard Samuel whispering on the phone. "I told you." She found the box. "We need to act now before it's too late." When Samuel hung up and came back, he saw the tears in Elara's eyes. "Samuel, who were you talking to? What's going on?" Her voice trembled. He tried to calm her, saying it was just a complicated business matter and nothing to worry about. But Elara knew he was lying. She no longer recognized the man she had spent her life loving. The foundation of their marriage began to crumble. Elara's memory fragments became clearer and more terrifying. She no longer saw a young woman, but her mother, Eleanor, crying and pleading with someone in a hospital room. The scene was identical to what she had seen in the first memory fragment. But this time, the silver-haired man's voice was not a whisper but a command. If you continue, we will ensure you never see the child again. It must be fixed. Its existence is a threat. Elara understood that the woman wasn't her birth mother, but Eleanor, the one who had raised her. But who was her biological mother? Why was her existence a threat? Elara searched through her old birth certificate and discovered something chilling. Her mother's name was written in black ink, and her father's name was written in blue ink. It was strange because both of them had signed with the same pen. She began to search for birth certificates of people her age. All of them were written in one type of ink. Something was wrong. She realized that her mother had signed with a different type of ink, as if it were a late intervention. Elara's search led her to an old friend of her mother's, an elderly woman named Agnes, who had moved to another town after Eleanor's death. Agnes recognized the sun and moon necklace immediately. Agnes cried when she saw it. "I thought the little girl was lost," she told Elara. "Your mother told me about it. It was a gift from your birth mother, a brilliant scientist named Isabella. Your mother worked with Isabella on a top-secret genetic research project. They discovered something incredible, something that could change humanity, but others didn't want it to happen." Agnes told her that the project was abruptly cancelled, and Isabella disappeared. She only had enough time to leave Elara and the necklace with Eleanor. Agnes said that Isabella had always been watched. She believed that they were people who wanted to control Isabella's research. They tried to take Elara right after she was born. Elara couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her entire life was a play staged to hide a painful truth. She wasn't Eleanor's daughter. She was the daughter of Isabella, a scientist haunted by men in black suits. Elara told Samuel everything she had learned. He was silent and finally confessed that he knew everything. Samuel had been told by his father, one of the men in black suits, that he had to marry Elara to ensure she would never discover the truth. He was tasked with watching her, to ensure she would never learn that she was a failed experiment. Elara's tears stopped flowing. Instead, they froze into ice. She felt betrayed, deceived by the man she had trusted the most. She no longer knew who was real and who was an imposter. Her life was a lie, and she felt like she was trapped in a maze of deception with no way out. Samuel, the man she once loved, was now the betrayer. She no longer knew who to trust, because even the person she loved most was part of the secret. She felt like a bird trapped in a cage, a toy in a game she couldn't understand. But she decided she wouldn't let that happen anymore. She would find the truth. Samuel's betrayal pushed Elara into a state of despair and determination. She left the house and didn't want to contact Samuel anymore. She knew she couldn't trust anyone, but she needed help. She went to Agnes. Agnes contacted a friend of Isabella's, a scientist named Julian, who had left the project years ago. Julian told Elara a frightening story. "They created you," Julian said, his voice trembling. "You're not human. You are a genetic hybrid between a human and another type of gene, a gene with the ability to improve the human brain, to give humans superhuman intelligence. They tried to create a generation of geniuses, a generation that could control the world. You were their first product." Elara's head reeled. She wasn't human. She was an experiment, a scientific project. She began to understand her memory fragments. The migraines weren't from stress, but from her brain trying to process an overload of information. The memory fragments of Isabella, her biological mother, weren't hallucinations, but her actual memories. She was the daughter of a mother who had sacrificed herself so she could live. But why was she born? Julian explained that Isabella had secretly modified Elara's genes so that they not only improved her intelligence but also made her capable of adapting and surviving in harsh environments. Isabella wanted to create a better generation of humans, but others wanted to create a generation of slaves. They wanted to control the world by controlling human intelligence. When Elara asked about the men in black suits, Julian told her about a secret organization called the Council. They were the ones who funded this project, Julian said. They wanted to create a generation of geniuses who could work for them, people who could help them make money. They didn't want you to be born. They wanted to use your genes to create other children, children who could be controlled. Your mother disagreed with that. She wanted you to be free. So, she modified your genes so you couldn't be controlled. Elara felt she had found part of the answer, but there were still many questions. Who was the silver-haired man? Julian said it was Samuel's father. He was the head of the council. Julian also said that Samuel was tasked by his father to watch Elara. Samuel was tasked with marrying her, to ensure she would never leave that small town. She realized that everything in her life was a setup. She had no choice. Her marriage wasn't about love. It was a contract. Elara felt she had been used and exploited. She no longer trusted anyone. Elara's migraine became more violent than ever. She saw herself in a cold, sterile room with bright white walls, and a woman's voice was whispering. The voice wasn't her mother's, but Isabella's. "You have the ability," Isabella whispered. "You are special. You are the only one who can stop them." Elara understood. She wasn't a failed experiment. She was a weapon. She was the only hope to stop the council. She couldn't give up. She had to keep fighting. She was born to fulfill her destiny. Elara decided she would confront Samuel's father, the silver-haired man she had seen in her memory fragments. She found his address through an old file from Julian. He lived in a gleaming glass building in downtown San Francisco, a place foreign to Elara, a piano teacher from a small town. When she arrived, he was waiting for her. "I knew you would come," he said, his voice cold. "I have been waiting for you for a long time. You are a failure. You are a mistake." Elara didn't tremble. She had lost everything, and she was no longer afraid. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you do this? Why did you ruin my life?" He laughed. "We didn't ruin your life. We created it. You are an experiment, a tool for us to control humanity. You could have become a great person, but your mother didn't want that. She made you an ordinary person. She ruined your potential." Elara disagreed. "My mother gave me a life. She gave me a normal life. That's what I want. I don't want to control the world. I just want to live a normal life." He became angry. "Normalcy is a waste. You are a waste. We could have created a better world. But your mother didn't want that. She betrayed us." Elara understood. They didn't want to create a better world. They wanted to create a world they could control, a world where they were the only ones with power. They wanted to use her to make the world a worse place, a place where only people with their genes could exist. Elara stood up and looked him straight in the eye. "You didn't ruin my potential," she said. "You made me stronger. You made me more determined. I won't let you ruin anyone else's life." In the end, Elara left the building. She knew she couldn't make those people disappear, but she could make the truth known. She decided to use her intelligence to expose the truth about the council. She wrote a book about her life, about the secrets she had discovered. The book became a phenomenon, and it made the council retreat. They no longer dared to harm her. Elara returned to her town, but her life was no longer the same. She no longer taught piano. Instead, she spent her time helping others, people who had been exploited by the council. At the end of the story, Elara found a new purpose in her life. She wasn't an experiment. She was a human being. She wasn't born to fulfill her destiny, but to change it. She couldn't change the past, but she could change the future. She was born to be a great person. This is a story full of mystery and tragedy. It shows that even when we don't know who we are, we can still find the strength to change our lives. It shows that love and sacrifice can triumph over deceit and greed. It also shows that we should never give up hope, because even when we think we have lost everything, we can still find a new path. If you like this story, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for my channel. I will be back with more interesting stories. Thank you very much.